Hey, I'm Eamon, one of the founders here at Tax, and in this video I'm going to walk you guys through the introductory questions, give you some background on who needs to file self-assessment, and if you do need to file a tax return, what information you need to have beforehand to help you get through the self-assessment submission seamlessly. So I guess a good point to start is the tax return that is due currently to HMRC covers the tax year 2020-2021. So that covers the period 6th of April 2020 to the 5th of April 2021. Now, if we get going through the questions, you'll see we first ask whether you are a UK resident. Now, you're a UK resident if you've spent over 6 months in the UK usually, and the good rule of thumb is that you don't pay tax in any other country. If this is the case for you, press yes, and we'll move on to the next question. The next question just asks around some rare types of income, such as trust income, and if you have any income from overseas or if you're a resident elsewhere. If this isn't the case for you, please select no and carry on. So I guess this is the first question I want to spend a little bit of time explaining. It simply just asks you about your job status, whether you are employed or self-employed. Now, if we just look at them employed for the time being, if you earn over £100,000, that is your total employment earnings, including your salary, bonuses and benefits, then you must file a self-assessment. If you are a higher rate taxpayer, so for the 2021 tax year, you earn over £50,000, you may want to file a self-assessment to claim relief on any contributions you made to a private pension or any gift aid charity donations you made. You get to claim back an extra 20% tax relief or 25% if you are an additional rate payer. Now, looking at the self-employed, if you are self-employed and you made £1,000 or more of income in the 2021 tax year, then you need to file a self-assessment. So this covers people maybe in the construction industry, barbers, or simply you may have a side hustle on top of your main employment that has made over £1,000. So you'll need to select the self-employed icon if that's the case for you. Now, if you are self-employed, we'll also ask you around the industry that best matches your self-employment. You can skip this, but it's really good if you have an industry that suits your self-employment, as we do tailor the expenses in the software to help you really find expenses that you may not have known about, or just make it really easy for you to record the expenses you had in the year. The next question is just looking at some additional sources of income that you may have had. Now, I guess starting with interest, I know the bank rates are very low at the moment, so this isn't going to be applicable to many people, but you need to file a self-assessment if you had bank interest to report. Now, there is something known, as a personal savings allowance. So you are allowed an amount of tax-free interest every tax year. It does depend on what you earn overall in the year. So for most individuals, you'll have at least a £500 interest-free amount. So if your interest was over £500 or you have any questions on this, please consult the help icon and we'd be happy to help. Looking at dividends have to be reported on a self-assessment if they are greater than £2,000. So you do have a £2,000 dividend tax-free allowance every tax year. So if it's under that amount or within the £2,000, then you don't have to file a self-assessment. However, if it is more than that, then you need to file and report this. Just to note here though, that if you do have a stocks and shares ISA or a cash ISA and you receive your interest and dividends within these ISAs, then they are exempt from tax and do not have to be reported at all. Now, looking at the rental income, so I guess To start here, looking at why you'd need to file a self-assessment, it is simply people who have £2,500 or more of earnings after their expenses, or if you have £10,000 or more of income before expenses. If any of those two apply to you, then you must complete a self-assessment to report this rental income. Little tip before you get started, you are able to receive a £1,000 flat property allowance. So if your earnings were very low and you don't have all your expenses put together, it's worth noting you can claim the £1,000 fixed expense allowance, or you would need to have your expense details to hand, which would include the mortgage interest, the letting agency fees, any service charges you may be paying, and so on. The last option here is pension or state benefits. So this covers any private pension payments you may be receiving or any benefits from the state that are taxable. Now, if any of those apply to you, please select them and move on. So the final question around your taxes is capital gains. Now, you do need to report capital gains if you made profit on the sale of assets of over £12,300. If this was the case for you, then you'd need to, obviously from the options there, select which asset you sold. Now, it's worth noting that if you lived in your personal home, so if you sold a personal home during the 2020-2021 tax year, if you lived in that home throughout ownership, then it would not be subject to capital gains tax, and you'd be able to claim something known as private residence relief. So you wouldn't have to report this. Equally, if you sold any stocks or shares that you held within an ISA, again, this would be exempt from tax. Now, at the moment, we're currently working behind the scenes and building the CGT technology. So this will be available for you guys to use in April this year. For now, please select no and move on if the CGT didn't apply to you. The final question is just great for us to know just where you've come from, how you heard about tax, what method brought you here, here to tax. And once you answer that question, that is the introduction complete. You will see a create an account page. So you just have to, enter your details, your email address, create password as standard. And then what will happen is a personalized questionnaire will be built for you based on the answers you just provided in the introduction. Once your account is created, you'll be able to access all the questions we need from you. And along the journey, please do consult the help and ask us any questions you may have. Best of luck with your filing this year. Any feedback's appreciated, and all the best.